What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, shout out to the brother Kevin Ramos for the $10 donation via the Cash App. And he had a video request, boxing. And it's a dream matchup between the Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran, and Sweet Pea Whitaker at 135 pounds. Who wins? Now, generally speaking, Sweet Pea Whitaker is considered one of the greatest defensive boxers and one of the great pound for pound boxers the sport has ever seen. If I remember correctly, I think his peak was in the early to mid 1990s. Unfortunately, we lost Sweet Pea Whitaker, I think it was back in 2019, due to an unfortunate traffic accident. I believe he was 55 years of age, if I remember the obituaries from that incident. The Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran, is still with us. One of the great boxers of all time, had a very long career, which I believe started in the 1960s and ended in the early 2000s. That's how long he fought. Of course, his best period of success was the very early 70s, I believe, through the late 1980s. But it's universally accepted that Roberto Duran was at his absolute best and most dangerous when he was at lightweight. Matter of fact, he is considered by many to be the greatest lightweight fighter of all time, if not the greatest, top two. So this is an intriguing matchup because you have a master boxer in Sweet Pea Whitaker, one of the most impenetrable defenses and one of the most frustrating defenses that a fighter's ever had, versus a guy that's probably the most renowned for his aggression and no holds bar fighting style. So, me personally, and I've been thinking about this back and forth for 2 days now, because these boxing matchups, unless it's something that is already embedded in me as far as having thought the process out before, or it was something that's so one-sided in my mind that it really doesn't warrant a lot of deep reflection on the bout or the supposed bout. I tend to think that this is going to be a very, very close fight for the most part, relatively close. But everything points to me, at least, unless he gets careless, all signs point to a Sweet Pea Whitaker decision victory. And the reason why I tend to think that is because I look at what the closest thing we've seen to that, and that was Sugar Ray Leonard, right? Now, don't get me wrong, Roberto Duran was an absolute monster. He was a beast at 135, right? But I don't think he's ever fought anybody, even at that dominant period of his boxing career. I don't know if he ever fought anybody that had Sweet Pea Whitaker's skill set or his speed and reflexes. And Sweet Pea was a master at fighting fighters and not only using his defense to make them miss, but coming at them at certain angles, which makes it kind of hard to get a flush shot at the fighter. You know what I'm saying? To get a flush shot at him, I should say. We've seen when Sugar Ray Leonard refused to fight in a style that accommodated Roberto Duran, which was get into a mano-a-mano fight with him. We saw that Roberto Duran rage quit. The only time he ever did that. So I tend to think that fighting a guy, even in his at his peak, Roberto Duran, as far as his speed and at that weight 135. I still tend to think, because I think even at 135, Roberto Duran, when he wasn't fighting, was still walking around at 160, right? 160 or 170. So anyway, I tend to think that Sweet Pea Whitaker is not going to fight him straight up, right? Now, Sweet Pea Whitaker is not going to have the power to really hurt a guy like Duran, right? But I could see Duran getting frustrated because he's going to call him a runner. He's going to think he's a chicken. He's not fighting him straight up. But I could see Duran, as the fight progresses, starting to get tired, swinging and missing. You know what I'm saying? Pressing the issue, maybe going to the body, having some success there. But I tend to see Sweet Pea Whitaker doing what he does best, and that is making his opponents look awkward. And as long as Sweet Pea doesn't get careless and let Duran hit him with something flush, and as far as him getting a flash knockdown or getting hurt by an errant punch that he didn't see coming, because that's how I see a scenario where Roberto Duran wins down the stretch, right? Because that's where Duran had his most unearthly powers at lightweight, right? So as long as Sweet Pea can avoid that, I can see him holding Duran, talking to Duran, getting in his head, pissing him off, getting him off his game plan, and then trying to go for a kill, which at that point, when you're starting to throw everything out, your game plan out the window, you're just going for a knockout, then, you kind of, to a master boxer, it's starting to become predictable. And honestly, if Duran doesn't get a knockout somehow, you know what I'm saying, like some, ninth or 10th round, I don't even want to say fluky because I don't want to denigrate how great Roberto Duran was. He's great, but I just think stylistically, especially also, I forget to mention this, with Sweet Pea being a southpaw, stylistically, I don't think it's a great fight for Roberto Duran, right? So I tend to think it'll be, I would go with majority decision, Pernell Whitaker. You know what I'm saying? Now, being that this is 135, and we're going back in time to 1972, I'm assuming this is a 15-round fight, right? So let's just go, I say 10 rounds to 5, Pernell Whitaker. 10 rounds to 5, Pernell Whitaker. My opinion, you know what I'm saying? Now, points, I can't really do it in my head. I'm not used to doing 15-round fights. I know, but it'll be something like, I think, general consensus, 10 rounds to 5 or 9 rounds to 6 or something like that, right? Or maybe even 8 rounds on one card for Pernell, uh, one tied and 6 rounds for Duran. You get where I'm going with this, right? So I think Pernell Whitaker wins majority. I could see one judge somehow giving it to, you have that one judge that is full of shit, and just gonna give goddamn Whitaker 3 rounds and Duran wins 11 and 1 even or some dumb shit like that. But other than that, I think Pernell Whitaker wins. That's just my honest opinion. I mean, I agree with it. And like I said, I get how dangerous Roberto Duran was, but I don't think Duran ever fought anybody like Sweet Pea Whitaker, even at 135. And like I said, just stylistically, I don't think that's a good matchup for Roberto Duran. Anyway, this is my opinion on it. Tell me what you guys think.